Hi everybody, welcome back to the third video in this three-part video series addressing the question of, so you want to submit programming to PharmSci 360 to address some questions that you might have related to that process. In the first two parts, we talked about the conference and how it's organized, and we also talked about the scientific programming committee, how generally information flows into the SPC and how they fill out the organization of the conference. In this last part, we're going to talk about the details of how you use the website to submit programming, and then a little bit of information about, if you have more questions, where you might go. This is a high-level summary of what you should expect if you want to submit a proposal through the AAPS website. Most importantly, the URL at the top is the place to go to start to submit content for PharmSci 360 for an oral presentation. The link is there. The slides will be available through AAPS website, but you can also see the URL there. So navigate to Submit Today, log into your AAPS website. You may want to review the themes for this year. Again, the link is there. Depending on the track that you're interested in, those themes guide the SPC in selecting proposals. So it's important that you align your proposed content with those particular themes. Importantly, hot topics don't need to be aligned with a theme. So that's a good opportunity where you might have a creative proposal for something that's very relevant, but not necessarily aligned with the current themes selected for this year. There's also a great facts website that talks about some of the details that I'm going through on this presentation for these videos. You might want to review those facts to gather more information about how to submit content. Then when you're ready, click here to begin a new submission. Very straightforward. As you walk through the submission, these are the types of information that need to be filled out to complete a submission. And I'll go through in more detail in the next slides. But generally, you need a title, you need to select the type of presentation. This is along the lines of the types of presentations that I've covered in the first and second video of this series. You'll need to complete the track, the subtrack, a description of the talk, a gap analysis, why it's valuable, learning format, and the target audience, learning objectives, and then a proposed speaker. So it's really not that much for each submission. So as you calibrate yourself about whether to submit for an oral presentation, just know that this is the information that will generally be expected. It doesn't take too long to complete. But let me go through in more detail each of the screens that you'll see as you submit new content. Again, the URL is here for starting a new submission. Once you go to that website, again, it's Start a New Submission. You'll be asked for the title and the submission type. You can see those here. And then you save the submission. So that starts the record for a new oral presentation. Once that's done, you'll be asked to complete 3 main sections, and these are related to what I showed on the prior slide, organized by the abstract, the learning objectives, and the proposed speaker or speakers. So let me walk through those very quickly. When you go to the abstract section, we ask for the scientific track, the subtrack. The sub-scientific track is related to the themes that were selected for this year. And again, these came from the SPC in the first quarter of this year and are selected based on current trends and interests of the industry for that particular track. So these are important to review and try to align with. Then you'll be asked for a presentation description, the gap analysis, the target audience, and the learning format. You'll be asked for 3 learning objectives. It can be relatively short, but it would help the SPC understand what you're trying to achieve. The third component of completing a submission is to select the proposed speaker. You can see as a default, you may come up as the default proposed speaker. You can either remove yourself or edit to add a different speaker. So each oral presentation has one selected speaker, proposed speaker. Hot topics are the exception, where multiple speakers can be proposed. After you've added or edited the proposed speakers, click Save and go on to the next slide, the next website. That's wrong. Once you've completed those pieces, you'll see check marks beside each of the 3 content areas on the submission website. Once that's done, click Submit, and that'll be the end. We should also mention that you can start a submission. If you don't complete it, it'll be retained in the system and you can complete it later. If you don't complete it, it'll stay in the system. There's no way to delete it, but the SPC, it'll be flagged for the SPC as incomplete and not reviewed. So for the symposium, you can propose individual speakers, or you can propose multiple speakers to fill a symposium, but you have to do it as one submission at a time. In the bottom half of the screen, you can see an example of the type of information that was provided for one of the submissions last year. Again, I'm trying to show that the amount of information isn't overwhelming for each submission, so they can be put together relatively quickly. Here's some submitter do's and don'ts. Probably most importantly is submissions need to be completed by April 8th. For rapid fire presentations, it's June 15th. So those submissions do have firm deadlines. You should contact the potential speakers to assess their interest or refine ideas, but it shouldn't be, it's a proposal. It shouldn't be locked down as a given that the speaker would be able to speak. So be careful about, if you're submitting, how you pose that to potential speakers. It won't be till later that the official invitations to the speakers go out, but working with potential speakers is really valuable. You should submit ideas for individual talks or a 4-talk symposium or anything in between. You can submit yourself as a speaker, and you should be creative about the session format, content, and speakers, especially for the potential panel discussions, roundtables, those kinds of things. And very importantly, work with the SPC team if they contact you, so you can refine the content and make it most valuable. Submit or don'ts. It's important that you shouldn't promise to potential speakers the opportunity to speak. The initial conversation should just be about the possibility. You should assume that all elements of your proposal, you should not assume that all elements of your proposal need to be fully worked out. It's okay to not have it fully refined. That'll come later. You also shouldn't assume that acceptance of your proposal is all or nothing. And this comes back to working with the SPC, that there could be versions of what you submitted that would actually fit into the program better in the context of other submitted programming. So the SPC triad for each of the tracks will use that information that you provided to assess the fit of your proposal to the selected track and theme, to assess the value of adding some or all of your proposed programming to the conference, and as a potential source of programming to mix, match, or improve the programming to the conference. So some flexibility is important, and just realize that the SPC is also being somewhat creative in the way they put the programming together, all with the intent of creating the best content. So over the 3 videos, I've talked about the conference, how it's organized, how content is submitted, how it's selected, and what you might experience as a speaker or submitter. But you may have other questions. The AAPS website has a wealth of information. I show here the facts site, which has information that's similar to what I've presented in these videos. That may answer some of the questions you have. If you have additional questions, you can email meetings@aaps.org and have your questions answered through communication directly with the AAPS staff. This is the end of the 3rd of the 3 videos. I hope this has been helpful. I hope that you submit content, and if you have more questions, contact AAPS for more answers. Thank you.